With Pacheco sidelined for the next 2 months, the Chiefs reunite with former running back Kareem Hunt. What does his addition mean for the Chiefs, and are the fans excited about it? Let's dive in and talk about it. Welcome into the KC Sports Authority podcast. I'm your host, Keegan Russell, joined by my guy, Christopher Tenpenny, as always. And just want to hop on here and talk about the news that broke today that the Chiefs not only brought in former running back Kareem Hunt for a visit today and a tryout, but they end up signing him to the practice squad in the wake of the Isaiah Pacheco news going on injured reserve for the next probably 6 to 8 games at least. Just want to hop on and kind of give our quick thoughts there. So, Chris, I'm just going to kick you first. Thoughts on this addition? Does it do anything for you? What were you thinking when you saw that pop up today that Kareem Hunt and the Chiefs were reuniting?
Yeah, they obviously had to make a move. I mean, they just don't have the depth at the running back position to not do something. And so the fact that it was Kareem Hunt, I was initially a little surprised just because of how, it went down back in 2018 with him getting essentially fired for lying to the team and also harassing women. So I was surprised that it was Kareem Hunt, but it makes a lot of sense. He hasn't had an incident since then. All word out of Cleveland, he has matured. He's done everything he can to ask for forgiveness for that incident. So if that's checked off, then it becomes down to the football stuff. You need a veteran back that can take a little bit of a workload if needed. And it helps if they know the playbook a little bit. And that's something Kareem Hunt is the only one on the market that checks all three of those boxes. So once they got past the off the field stuff, it kind of became a no-brainer.
Yeah. Outside of Jerick McKinnon, the only other guy that knows the playbook well. And, McKinnon's a little bit older, and we've done that a couple of years now. So I like the move personally. I think the question I have, not just to you, but to the fan base is, how are fans going to respond to Kareem Hunt being back, considering the way he was let go and, as you said, fired from the team for what he did? Not to dive into the off the field stuff there, but it kind of feels like it's more about winning. Like you said, though, Kareem Hunt's been solid the last couple of years, hasn't had any other issues. Cleveland didn't have anything but good things to say about him. He looked, wasn't the same when he played for them, but he had good change of pace back to Nick Chubb. I thought they were a fantastic 1-2 pairing. I don't know what the expectations are going to be of him coming in. I think your hope is maybe not this week against the Falcons, but maybe the following week against the Chargers. You get to see him suit up and hopefully make an impact. Is his game going to be enough to take over the RB1 spot with Pacheco out? Is it going to be Carson Steele's RB1 or 1A to 1B with Samaje Perine? I think that'll be interesting to watch over the next couple of weeks. But from a football perspective, does this signing make a positive impact for the Chiefs?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Again, it gives no one on the roster either. Both the two running backs right now with Steele and Perine both just got here. Perine's never been an every down back kind of do it guy. And Steele, he's not explosive. He's a rookie. You just don't feel comfortable with that guy being your every down back solely with no backup plan. So I think on the field, Kareem Hunt's going to be a big help. He's going to be a guy that everything out of Cleveland, it talks about how he was the guy that did what he was asked. He did not break the 15, 20-yard runs. He's just not that guy anymore. But you need a tough 3 runs. You need a blitz picked up on third down. You need someone to catch a screen out of the backfield. He can do all of those things. And in this offense, that's really all you need.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be an interesting piece around the goal line. He was a solid goal line running back for Cleveland in addition to the Chiefs. We talked about another podcast this week that we joined that maybe Carson Steele gets a heavy workload the next couple of weeks to see if he has it or not. And the Chiefs have had success with a rookie running back taking over the reins. Isaiah Pacheco did a couple of years ago, and then Kareem Hunt did it himself 5, 6, 7 years ago when he took over for Spencer Ware. So I think it'll be interesting to see how Andy Reid draws up the offense using those three. Is Carson Steele the first and second down back and Perine's the third down back? Is Carson Steele the main focus running the ball and Perine's used in the shotgun? I guess what expectations do you have out of the run game over the next couple of weeks? And with what we have currently, is it enough to make up for the loss of Pacheco, however long that may be?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of what you saw when Pacheco was out last year. It was the Patriots game. I can't remember what other game, but that they were out to where it was just McKinnon and Clyde, and like Clyde kind of got 8-ish carries a game, and McKinnon was your third down back, receiving back. I think you do the same thing with P. Ryan and Carson. I think Carson's back there for a lot of the plays, like whether they're actually throwing or running it to him. I don't know, but I think he'll be there a lot on first and second down. And then P. Ryan will be the third down back. They'll try to use the running game in other ways, whether it's getting Cole Hardman finally involved into the offense with some jet sweeps, getting Xavier Worthy a few more of those pitches. Rasheed Rice's bubble screen. There's plenty of other ways to get run game
Mm.
looks without actually using the running backs. So I think you'll just see Andy Reid kind of go into that part of his playbook, and it'd be really nice if Travis Kelce could also help take off that load a little bit in the receiving game. Obviously I don't want
Yeah, has he played a snap this year?
right.
I'm not sure yet. He hasn't made an impact, and I know we've talked about it too before. He hasn't needed to make an impact just yet. He's been taking a lot of double team looks for sure, and hasn't been open all that much.
Blocking a lot too, blocking
Yeah,
his ass off.
yes. Which for those that think that Kelsey's not the best tight end in the league, oh, he's just a blocker. We've said that about George Kittle before too. Kelsey's one of those that does what is needed to win the game when it's needed. Sometimes that's 8 catches for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sometimes it's 1 catch, 5 yards, and making the biggest blocks of the game to let Pacheco break off a 25-yard run.
Right.
But so yeah, no Pacheco the next couple of weeks. Kareem Hunt in. It's probably going to take him a week or two to get his legs going and see him in real game time action. What do you think the ceiling is for him specifically as he gets back into the fold here, and how much Hunt do you think we see over the next 4 to 5, 6 games?
Really just depends on how Steele looks this next game or two. Really, I don't have high expectations for Hunt. He seems more like a contingency plan than anything else, or just a vet presence that you have. He's been averaging 3.4 yards per carry the last couple of years. Like, again, guy that's going to go out there and do his job. You want those kind of people on your team, but I mean, I don't even know what to put a ceiling on. Like, if he plays 5 games and gets 30 yards in all of those games, that would probably be above my expectations. Like, again, like I'm not putting much on, but I think he's probably going to get a couple goal line carries if they need it, and I just expect him to be able to do his job. I mean, this was a guy that was crying in his car for not getting a ring in Cleveland 5 years ago or whatever it was. So I think he's just going to be happy to be back in KC and do whatever's of him.
Let's talk about the three backs, though, from a fantasy football perspective. If you had to go make a waiver claim on one of these three guys, who do you think has the highest upside from a fantasy football perspective? Because I'm up in the air on this. Like, you got to think it's Carson Steele with the workload potentially, but P. Ryan with the pass catching ability. I know we haven't seen a lot of it yet, and he dropped that wheel route 2 weeks ago. But I've had several people already ask me that of, hey, should I pick up one of these two guys to replace Pacheco? And personally, I don't think the workload. I don't think Carson Steele's getting 15 carries for 75 yards. Now, I could be wrong. I just don't see it. I also don't think P. Ryan's going to go 8 touches for 45 yards and 4 catches for 32. I don't know. So what's your take on that?
I think I'm going P. Ryan, especially if you're in a PPR league, because I don't know if Steele has any boom potential really. Like, I mean, he might be a good 6 to 8 points, like honestly, because he's not going to really be a receiving threat. It really depends on did Carson still get into the end zone that week or not. And those are sometimes really hard matchups. Well, I think P. Ryan, there's a case to where he could, get 5 carries, 20-ish yards, and you get 3 catches for another 30. Like, I think that, and you sneak in a touchdown. Like, I wouldn't start either of them, but if you're someone that has Pacheco and you have other holes in your roster at the running back position, you had to pick up one of them. I think P. Ryan is the safest play to go, even though we haven't seen it really.
Yeah, and I think you're right there. To me, it comes down to outside of the pre-scripted plays the first quarter, who's going to be the guy out there on the field when the offense is trying to get a rhythm and emotion. And I kind of feel like it's going to be P. Ryan with his experience as a pass catching option, as well as a a pass pro guy. I thought he plays that role pretty well. And I think Carson Steele's a rookie. I don't know if you can expect him to be
Right.
out there that much. So when you're in that 2 minute to 4 minute offense, I think Perine's going to be the guy. And if he has any sort of spark there, then I think they'll use him. But yeah, Kareem Hunt, interested to see how he looks in a Chiefs uniform again. Actually, I'm curious to see what number he ends up in once he's on the active roster, knowing that Shamari
37.
Connor,
That's what
37.
that's not it has that's not confirmed, but it's one of
Oh,
them that's available that I just can't see him in
there's not very many good numbers
yeah,
available on the
yeah.
Chiefs
I can't
roster right
see him
now.
in number 0, so I'm leaning for 37.
So let's play worst case scenario for a moment. Let's say Hunt comes up, looks okay, and looks a little rusty, slow. P. Ryan hasn't really done anything to garner attention, and Carson Steele's struggling. Is there a trade option out there you feel is realistic for the Chiefs to consider looking at, or do you even think they attempt to go that route? Because the other question mark we haven't even discussed, and I completely forgot he even existed, is Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
You're right.
He's going to miss the first 4 games. So after this week, he's got one more game he's going to miss. So is it Helaire just slides back in and takes over that role? Or if you had to, is there a realistic trade option out there right now?
So the Chiefs know Clyde's Edwards-Helaire's position better than anyone else can. So like maybe they do think that he will be in a good spot in week 5 and they roll with him, or maybe they're like, man, this guy's done, which would suck, but just you got to get that mental health in check first. And so if he's not in a position to play, then I think you start looking at trade candidates. And I think there's 2 that I would look at, both on bad teams. Neither one's going to excite you, but I think you got to look at Singletary on the Giants and you got to look at Sanders on the Panthers. I think those are really the only 2 options if you're going to make a trade. I don't think they'd be super expensive as far as what you're giving up, because they do have a little bit of money on those contracts to where by just taking those on is some compensation in itself. But yeah, I don't see much else past that. And not that Sanders and Singletaries are great options, like they're not going to blow you away. But if everything else is just not doing anything in the run game, I think the Chiefs' hand will be forced a little bit to go get one of those.
Yeah, I don't mind either option. I also don't mind Chuba Hubbard if the Panthers want to move on from him, knowing that Jonathan Brooks is in the wing waiting.
I just haven't seen it with Chuba. Like he's got a fun name and he had a good, decent rookie year, but I don't know. He looks slow and doesn't look explosive to me at all.
And it could be he's running behind a not so good offensive line.
Well, yeah, but they've improved.
The Panthers are so bad that they have to start forcing the ball down the field anyway.
They got a couple of guys on that line in Carolina. The guard position's pretty good. Like it's not as bad up front as you think from maybe the worst team in the NFL you would normally be.
The other guy I would consider, just because he's got some local tie here, and I think he's in a muddled backfield with a bad team, and that's Khalil Herbert with the Bears, another guy that's been a trade candidate conversation piece the last several months with the Bears once they brought over DeAndre Swift. So I wouldn't mind that. There are some other guys out there, but nothing really that's going to really, I think, be a needle pusher. So I think, yeah, the hope is Carson Steele looks pretty solid. Kareem Hunt can get back up to speed and mix in a little bit. And between the 3, if we can still get 75 yards rushing a game out of those 3, while mixing in, jet sweep to McCole Hardman or Xavier Worthy, or get the bubble screen game going and Rashee Rice get that yak, I think we'll be fine. But that's my thoughts. Any other final thoughts you have on this Kareem Hunt edition?
Nope. I'm just kind of interested to see. I think the reception is going to be very warm. I think fans kind of were fond of him because of how his rookie year went, and although it ended very, very poorly, I think we've seen in football that gets forgiven very quickly.
Yeah, it's been enough time in between. You don't have the expectation of him being the bell cow back. That, yeah, I think fans will be excited. I think, personally, I'm excited. He's one I thought in the offseason was a possibility of bringing in anyway. So I think he'll get a warm welcome. But yeah, we'll wrap up there. Next Chiefs conversation, I think we need to have those. Let's look at the wide receivers. Hollywood Brown out for the remainder of the year. Do they have enough in the wide receiver room to cover that hole there? And work through the rest of the season. So we'll talk about that in another edition later this week of some Chiefs talk. But yeah, thanks for joining us on this one. Again, make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast over here on YouTube. We're almost to 900 subscribers, on our way to 1,000. And we have got that big giveaway plan once we hit 1,000. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Come back later in the week for another edition of Game Day Gambles as I give you some college football and NFL bets for this weekend to hopefully make you all some money. And so thank you again for joining us in this one, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.